One of the biggest challenges I have for Luke's birth story of Jesus isn't theology, it's logistics. The more I study the census, the less it's making sense to me, and I'll explain why. Luke says Mary and Joseph are living in Nazareth. That's their home. That's where their work is. That's where they live, and where anything Rome would tax would be located. But then Luke introduces this census, decreed by Augustus and under Quirinius, and for some reason, Joseph now has to travel 90 miles from Nazareth to Bethlehem. This already raises questions because Roman censuses are about tax, land, labor, where you lived, not where your ancestors lived generations earlier. And here's the ironic part. How do you get taxed in Bethlehem for what you own in Nazareth? That feels backwards. If this is a Roman registration, the last place you would go is somewhere you don't live and work currently. Then Luke adds Mary traveling late in her pregnancy, but never says that she has to go. If this is about Joseph's lineage or property, bringing a pregnant teenager on a 90-mile trip makes even less sense. And since Luke was kind enough to give us the leader that the census was under, Quirinius, we actually have outside sources that speak on it. Josephus, the Jewish historian, places it at around 6 AD, and he describes it as new, disruptive, and controversial. So what Luke did is anchor Jesus' birth story to a known census and known rulers. The problem is the timeline and the logistics don't really add up well. If we couple this with the differences we find in Matthew's birth story, mainly Herod died in around 4 BC, and Jesus being about 2 years old when Herod tried to kill him, placing Jesus' birth probably at about 6 BC, and then Luke tying him to this census in 6 AD, it gets harder and harder to reconcile Luke's story of Jesus' birth, especially things like where did Jesus and his family go after he was born? Does he go to Egypt like it says in Matthew, or does he go directly home like in Luke? All these things are strains on the birth story that Luke presents. And although our first instinct may be to harmonize all this stuff, I think we might be missing something if we deliberately ignore the differences. So drop down in the comments, tell me what you think, and like always, I will be back with more ancient history and Bible breakdowns.